Get ready, guys, because we got more Schwarzenegger in 4K to talk about with my review of Last Action Hero on 4K. Let's do it. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel. I am Ken, here today to talk about the newest 4K release of Last Action Hero, a film directed by John McTiernan and starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. So this just came out this week, and this is a kind of unusual 4K release because this release came out with the Steelbook first this past week, and the actual 4K slipcover for Last Action Hero will be due out on June the 15th. So if you are not a Steelbook enthusiast, I will leave the link for purchase in the description below for the Steelbook, but also I will leave the link for the 4K slipcover if you just want to wait for that. It's a little bit lower in price, so if you're not a Steelbook enthusiast, you might want to hit that link and pre-order that one as well. But before we get into my thoughts on this movie, breaking down the audio-visual quality, the special features, the packaging, Steelbook, all of that good stuff, I want to ask that if you are not yet a subscriber of the Mid-Level Media channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I do all kinds of great, amazing physical media-based content on this channel. I do reviews of new Blu-rays and 4Ks. I also do Blu-ray hunting videos. I do physical media updates every single Monday where I tell you all what's coming out this week, what's coming out in the coming months, just tons of physical media-based content on this channel. If you love Blu-rays, if you love 4Ks, hit that subscribe button and I promise that you will not be disappointed. And also be sure to hit that like button as well, guys. I would definitely appreciate that. And comment down below just your thoughts on the release of Last Action Hero, the 4K release, the movie itself, whatever you want to comment down below. So getting into this film, guys, it's been years since I've seen it. I was probably 8 or 9 the last time that I saw Last Action Hero. This movie is directed by John McTiernan, who, if you don't know, also directed 2 of the biggest 80s action films of all time. Probably my 2 favorites, Die Hard and Predator. So this guy has an incredible pedigree in the action genre, and he did this movie in 1993, so it was about 5 years removed from Die Hard, which came out in 1988. So definitely a very capable director in the action genre, and this is, of course, starring the biggest action star of all time, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and also Austin O'Brien, who's the kid in this movie, but the only other movie I remember him from is My Girl 2. So I don't think he had a great career as far as like child actors, but he was in 2 kind of notable releases back then. And the plot of this movie is basically the kid who's like obsessed with movies, going to the movie theater, seeing action films. I can definitely relate, as I'm sure a lot of you can. He's in the theater. He's kind of friends with a theater owner. Kind of reminded me of Cinema Paradiso a little bit when I watched it, if you want to make that comparison. He gives him a magic golden ticket, and it transports him in to the film of his favorite action star. Getting into like the movie, this movie is very meta, so he's transported into the film of his favorite action star, whose name in the movie is Jack Slater, but they also use the real life name of Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's the actor of the movie. So they reference him in the movie as well, so it's very meta in that way. And this had to have been like one of the first films that actually did that kind of meta thing. I know Deadpool kind of made it a thing, made it super popular recently, but this movie has to be considered pretty original for doing that kind of meta stuff back in the early 90s. And to be honest, I think that might be the reason why this didn't do as well back in the early 90s. I don't think people got it. I don't think that people got really what they were going for with this movie. So just getting into my thoughts on the movie itself, I think it's an okay action adventure. I can't say that I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. This movie is very long. It's like 2 hours and 10 minutes. And I don't think it needs to be that. Like, you have the setup for the film, you have the finale, which I think is great, but then a lot of meandering in the middle, a lot of like plot points that are pretty muddled and they kind of lose track of themselves along the way. There is some great action throughout the film. I'm not going to say that there's not some cool explosions, some set piece moments. Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course, is really great in this movie. He doesn't exactly make it great, but like I said, it's good. It's okay. I enjoyed it, but to be honest, I was just hoping for a little bit more because this movie has been built up over time. Like I said, I hadn't seen it since I was a kid. I remember enjoying it when I was a kid, but that's about it. There are some pretty cool villains in this movie, like Charles Dance, who of course plays Tywin Lannister on Game of Thrones. He plays like the really like over the top, like mustache twirling villain in this movie. He's got like a glass eye that he keeps replacing, and each one of them has a different look to it. So he's a really cool villain in the story. He does a really good job as this villain. I don't really like understand fully where his motivations come from, but I don't really think that matters within this story, or at least it didn't really matter to the writers and the director as far as I could tell. But Charles Dance, still incredible actor, and he is really good in this movie. Jack the Ripper, I remember Jack the Ripper. If I remember one thing from this movie, I remember him because he used to scare the crap out of me when I was a kid and watched this movie, and for good reason. Like, do a really good job with the makeup and just making him look kind of like dark and dingy and just really creepy and menacing. And yeah, you see him right in the opening scene of this film, and it just transported me back to being a kid again, and I was instantly like, ugh, I remember that. I remember those feelings when I was a kid of being scared of him. So yeah, he's a good character, but to be honest, he's in the very beginning, then he's in the very end, so he doesn't really play a huge part within the story. Another thing that I want to note is that this movie is pretty dark and serious in tone, and for the actual story that it's setting up, for the material. And I don't think those two things really fit together. Like, I think that this movie needed to be a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more fun, a little bit more energetic. I mean, it is kind of energetic, but you know what I mean. Like, it's just, it's a kid's adventure story is what it should be, and it feels a little bit darker. There's blood, there's people getting freaking shot in the head, they're getting stabbed in the head with like ice cream cones. So yeah, I would have rather have seen it be just a little bit more geared towards kids, because I think that the story is just fun enough to where it could have been a really fun kids action adventure movie. But that's kind of what movies like this were in the 80s and 90s. They expected a little bit more out of kids. You don't get a lot of this out of kids movies nowadays, especially this type of like brutal action. So I appreciate growing up in that time just because I was exposed to more of this kind of stuff, and I feel like that made me a more well-rounded film fan. But this is not a movie that I could recommend now for children. I don't know if I would watch this with my son right now. So yeah, overall for a movie, guys, like I said, I enjoyed certain aspects of it, but as a whole, it didn't really hit me like I wanted it to. I'll give this a solid 3 out of 5 as far as like the movie itself. So just getting into the visuals, guys, that is where this really shines for me. I think that the visuals are fantastic in this movie. If you're not a big grain fan, if you're a grain hater, then you don't have to worry, because there's not really a lot of noticeable grain, at least on my end, throughout this film. So that is one thing to know. And this is a very strong 4K upscale. The black levels are really consistent, really good throughout. Yeah, this film has some really good coloring throughout it. And the thing that really popped to me is kind of those scenes on the rooftop, both in the beginning and at the end with Jack the Ripper, and then the rain falling. You really kind of notice just how good everything looks when you see like the rain on their faces, just the definition in that as it's like glowing off of the lights from the rooftop. So it all looked great. Like, visually, this looks fantastic. And as far as the audio was great. This is a Dolby Atmos mix, but I'm just listening to it on a soundbar. So as far as I can tell, everything is crystal clear. No issues there. The score in this is fantastic. That is one of the more underrated aspects of this film for sure. And as far as the packaging, guys, this is a really awesome Steelbook, and I don't buy a ton of Steelbooks. But yeah, this is a really good one that I would probably recommend. I just love the artwork on it. Yes, it's the standard poster, and yes, this has been on numerous DVD covers, Blu-ray covers, but yeah, it's just a really nice Steelbook that I do like a lot, and it's got some cool stuff on the inside. It's got some cool disc artwork, but like I said, this Steelbook right now is $27.99. I'm pretty sure the 4K slipcover is going to be $22.99, so that's going to be about $5 cheaper if you wait for the slipcover. So if you're just a fan of the movie, if you just want the movie in the 4K format, the definitive format, then I would just wait until that price drop. But if you want it now, this is a nice Steelbook, and I do recommend that one. So getting into the special features itself, guys, there's a new audio commentary with John McTiernan, but that's the only new thing that I could find. All the other special features were just from previous like DVD and Blu-ray releases. So again, no new special features in here, which of course is always disappointing. Like, I wish they would just get some new material with Arnold or something. Bridget Nielsen comes back and does an audio commentary, who, by the way, is really awesome and badass in this movie for the very short time span that she has in it. So at the end of the day, guys, as far as a release, like I said, I didn't love the movie itself, but if you're a fan of this movie, if you're a fan of 90s nostalgia, action, all that stuff, it delivers in those aspects. And like I said, the 4K transfer is absolutely stellar. One of the best that you will get nowadays. So yeah, I have to say that I would recommend buying this right now. And I also include the 4K slipcover if you want to go with that. So yeah, buy it right now. It's a great release. It's a fun movie from the 90s. Like I said, not great. It doesn't reach those levels of like Total Recall or Terminator for me, but I did enjoy this movie quite a bit, and I would recommend that you buy it right now. So with that, guys, we are going to go ahead and end this review of The Last Action Hero on 4K. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you can, hit that subscribe button, like the video, comment your thoughts on this movie down below, turn on those bell notifications for all of those future videos, and we'll see you next time.